The first Sonic game made back in 1991 is such a classic game. It has been talked about and reviewed to death. So why bother making a video about it? I want to be original, so I'm gonna find another game to talk about.
I'll think about the views you could get.
Back in the day, Sega was kind of struggling to keep up with other game companies. Not because their games were bad, I'm not saying that. Mostly because I haven't played them. But if Sega wanted to stand out, they need to step up their game. And what better way to do that than with a mascot? Oh, well, there's also making fantastic games, but I'm sure that's what they thought of as well. Long story short, they had a lot of ideas for who the mascot was gonna be. There was an idea of this person in pajamas who was later made into the villain, how the original name was supposed to be Mr. Needle Mouse, but finally it was settled on a little blue hedgehog named Sonic. In 1991, the game Sonic the Hedgehog released for the Sega Mega Drive. It was a big success and everyone loved it. But I don't care what everyone else thinks, cause we all know that my opinion is the only correct one. So, here's my review on Sonic the Hedgehog. A positive thing I can give about this game is how it handles Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah, sure, some people might think it is dumb, but I quite like it. Oh shit, fuck, this is embarrassing. I got the wrong game. I even gave a brief history as to why it was made. How did this happen to me? The story is, Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik as they called him in North America back then, has trapped a bunch of animals and robots that he calls baddies, and he wants to take over the world. And Sonic thinks, hey, that's fucked up, and decides to go out, get the 6 Chaos Emeralds, free the animals, and stop Eggman. The thing I really like about this game is how much personality there is to the characters despite being a 16-bit game. Sonic, for example, is all about speed, getting to the point. If you don't move the controller at all, Sonic starts to look at the camera and he is not patient. He just wants to fucking beat Eggman already! Speaking of Eggman, I like his little laugh whenever he shows up. He just looks so evil, yet charming at the same time. And whenever he gets hit in his machines by Sonic, he just has this face that says, oh shit. This doesn't affect gameplay or zones that much, but I do like me some characters with personalities in games. Another thing I like about this game is the special stages. Now I know this is not the most agreed upon opinion, but do you guys remember what I said earlier? But I don't care what everyone thinks, cause we all know that my opinion is the only correct one. So yeah, shut up and listen to what I have to say. And for some context, a bit about how this game works is you need to grab wings to be safe. If you get hit while having wings, you lose them. If you get hit while having no wings, you're about as alive as me on the inside. And with that I mean, you're dead. The way you get in the special stages is by having 50 wings or more at the end of a zone. And instead of just going straight forward, you go into this giant wing and then you have a chance to get the Chaos Emerald. In the special stages themselves, you're in a ball-like form and you can only jump to make progress. Which can be a bit tough, especially when the entire zone is rotating around, but that's kind of the reason why I find it fun. There's some round things with the letter R on it, which I don't think means this game is rated R, but rather I think it stands for rotate, because touch it and the stage will rotate the other way around. Like titties, it can either be really helpful or lead you to your doom, so be careful of when you touch them. And there are some round things that says up and some that says down, which, honest to god, I have no fucking clue as to what they do. There's some balls that says skulls, so naturally, you need to avoid them at all costs. And instead, look after an emerald that is always behind these things that will disappear the moment you touch them. No, I'm not looking up what they're called. You can only fail so many times, both in terms of losing wings in the zones, and in the stages by touching the goals and not getting the Chaos Emeralds before it's too late. And yes, you have to get all the 6 Chaos Emeralds if you want to get flowers on your ending. I do like that there's a bit of pressure, but not too much in that aspect. Or That is unless you're playing a newer version of the game that has the rewind feature. But we all know that I would never do that, right? Right? Let's talk about the controls! Segways are fun. When moving Sonic, he will start walking, which then turns into running a little bit, which then turns into running super fucking fast. And if you move the other way around while in the super fucking fast place, he doesn't stop right then and there. He will stop in a way a car is being stopped when hitting the brakes. And whenever you jump, you get in a ball-like form that can kill the badniks. That is, of course, unless they have spikes or other weird things on them that can hurt you. I do like this mix of trying to run fast and not get hit by the badniks while doing so. I find it very fun. There's also this spin dash move where if you run fast enough and then duck, you turn into a ball while running. It can be useful for specific enemies and to destroy some walls for secrets, but let's just say I'm glad they improved this move in Sonic 2. But it's a fun enough move to have here. Overall though, the controls just feels natural in my opinion. Now, after all that praise, you might think I really like this game, right? Well... Now yes, I did give this game quite the praise, but I did forget to talk about one important thing about any game. The levels. They're not bad by any means, or most of them. And there are some things I really love about them, like, for the most part, there's secrets to be found. Like, if you go out of your way, you might find a small place filled with a shield that can make you take a hit and not lose your wings, which can be very helpful for getting to the special stages. A 1-up, which I'm not gonna explain to you guys cause you're not 5. There's a box with wings, a box with a shoe that makes you go even faster than normal for a few seconds. And a cool little thing about this is, whenever you have them on, the music in the zone speeds up as well. And lastly, there's the box that makes you run fast and be invincible for some time. Which means it's better than the super shoe, so I guess... get fucked. And another thing I like is how the badniks are designed in these zones. Some of them I find fine enough to beat, a few I find annoying, but they are all well designed in that they look cool in my opinion. And they also show that Eggman is a really creative dude despite being evil. Alright, time to get into the things that doesn't really work. Remember when I said I really like the controls and how they work well when going fast?
I don't think you said that last bit.
Shut up! I'm trying to make a point! Well, that is only really true when the zones themselves are built upon the controls good enough. I feel some zones are, and others not so much. Green Hill Zone I feel is not only really good with being a great first impression, it is also really good with working around the fact that Sonic is supposed to go fast, but still having enemies and obstacles here and there to not make it too easy. While in Marble Zone, you have to go slow for the most part, unless we're talking about this moment where you have to run away before the lava catches up to you. I like that, but for the most part this zone is just about waiting and pushing things slowly. Of course, there's still other good zones like Springyard Zone and Starlight Zone. I find them really fun in their own rights. Springyard has some really interesting things to find if you try and go upwards, and I do find it fun to try and roll down and up to get to higher places here. These badniks are annoying though, with them always coming out of nowhere. Starlight Zone is my favorite, so I'll talk about it a bit later. But for now, I'll talk about the zone that I hate the most. Labyrinth Zone. In general, I honestly just hate water levels in video games. There might be a good water level out there in the world, but I personally haven't seen that yet. You move so slowly in the water, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think going slow kind of goes against going fast, which is what Sonic does. And there's these spikes coming out of the walls from time to time. So you have to move even more slowly than you're already doing to avoid them. And because you're underwater, you also have to worry about drowning. Yay! Of course, there's these bubbles that will come out to help you with, you know, not drowning. They do take some time to pop out and it can be annoying at times, but it isn't too bad, they do still help. One annoying thing about them though is, whenever you breathe in a bubble, you don't turn into a ball-like form. So if there's a battery close by, it can be really easy getting hit. A positive thing I can give about this zone is, some of the parts where Sonic is not underwater is actually okay. And I like this moment where the water is rising and you have to get to the platforms in time. Alright, enough of this. Let's talk about the zone I love the most in this game. Starlight. This one is very relaxing, but not too easy in my opinion, to the point where it becomes boring. There is these tilty things. I have no idea what they're called in English, just bear with me. With a spike ball at the end of one side. You need to jump on the other side of the tilty thing to get the spike ball on the other side. And then if you're standing on the opposite side of the thing in time, you'll be able to be catapulted to another side of the zone. Call me basic, and I'll come to your house and commit arson, but I just need that and I'm happy. I also really like the aesthetic of the zone. It just looks really nice in my opinion. I don't really have much to say, I just like this zone. Anyways! Normally I don't mind there being just 1 or 2 bad levels or zones in games. But I don't know, when it's 2 out of 6 that are bad, in my opinion of course, I kind of notice them even more. Also, I know I only talked about 5 and now I'm saying 6, but we'll get to that one later. Just trust me, don't do anything illegal. Another complaint I have with the zones is that they are 3 acts long. Even with the zones I like, I feel by the 3rd act I'm either beginning to become tired of it, or already tired of it and I just want to move on to the next. The 3rd act is just for the zone's boss fight to take place at in the end. And speaking of boss fights, ooh, that was actually a really smooth transition right there. I should give myself a medal for that one. They're actually quite fun. Or, well, most of them. I'm just gonna talk about each of them from worst to best, in my opinion. The one in Labyrinth Zone is barely even a boss fight. I do find it somewhat cool that you can get to the top before the water rises up there if you're good enough. But the boss fight is just that. Going to the top, and I find it kind of boring and sometimes annoying with the spikes. Next is the one in Green Hill. Eggman throws his giant wrecking ball out to try and kill Sonic. There's 2 platforms on the side to help getting Sonic up. It's honestly very easy. Maybe a little too easy for my taste. However, it does its job in introducing the villain. Plus, it is the first boss fight after all. The boss fight in Marble Zone I think is a bit better. Eggman commits arson, so that's always something. Eggman's machine now has this flamethrower of some sort and commits arson on the platform you're on. I do like the mix of hitting Eggman and getting on the other platforms in time. That's actually quite fun in my opinion. Next we have the one in Springyard Zone. In this one, Eggman's machinery thing... Okay, I should probably look up what it's actually called. Oh. Eggman's Eggmobile now has a spike at the bottom to hit Sonic by going down. But he only does that when Sonic is standing still. So, of course, you have to stand still for a quick second and Eggman will drop down and that's where you need to run. But the interesting thing here is, when he misses you, he gets the platform instead, and it breaks. So you have to hit Eggman as many times as possible when you get the chance. If not, there may not be any more platforms to work with, which I find fun. And then there's my second favorite in Starlight Zone. There's 3 tilty things at the bottom, and Eggman's Eggmobile can now shit out spike balls to try and hit Sonic. You can use that to your advantage and either catapult yourself upwards and hit Eggman, or catapult the spike balls into Eggman's Eggmobile. I do like how you have a bit of a choice here on how to beat them. Sometimes I just need to catapult spikes and I'm satisfied. Plus, I also like how something that was used earlier in the zone is now being used in a boss fight. Alright, let's talk about the 2 last zones and the last boss fight in this game. Scrap Brain's zone is... it's good for a final zone. Like, I do find it pretty difficult. There's no checkpoints here, which makes it pretty interesting. Sometimes there will be some platforms that turns around so you can't stand on it and you'll fall into a bottomless pit. But you can't run too fast because there will be some fire coming out of the small holes from time to time. And the atmosphere here is somewhat creepy in the best way possible. And I do like these pig enemies throwing out bombs down these places, so you have to run down and to the side to try and avoid the bombs. I also like these moments where you have to get up by pressing a button for the platform to open up. So yeah, no, this zone isn't bad. I think the reason why I find it forgettable / don't remember it as much as the others might just be because... Actually, I have no fucking clue. We're almost at the end now, so I want to talk about something I both like and dislike about this zone. At the end of Act 2, Sonic walks into a room where Eggman presses a button and then Sonic falls into another place. I like that you fall down a few zones and have to get back up to beat Eggman. I feel it adds a nice bit of suspense. What I don't like, however, is that the zone you get back to is fucking Labyrinth Zone! I mean, it has a different look to it, which I do find pretty cool, but it's still Labyrinth Zone, just disguised as Scrap Brain Act 3! I have already told you guys how much I hate Labyrinth Zone. And this is more of the same, so I won't go too into it. Just more of going slow and water stuff that I hate. But at the end, you find some wet springs to bring you upwards into the final zone, which I do think is a nice transition. And then the final zone has this really creative name called... Final Zone. Yeah. This is basically the final boss fight, but there's a bit of build up to it. In that you gotta walk up to it first. Yeah, it's not a lot, but I do like how you don't just start with the final boss from the beginning of the zone. Anyways, let's talk about the final boss fight. It goes at the top of the boss fights list from worst to best. There is these machinery things coming out of the top of and the bottom of the ground. Always two of them where one of them has Eggman in it. That is the one to hit to do damage. But the thing is, you don't always know which one Eggman is in. And sometimes two of them can come out in these ways where they are blocking the way to hit Eggman. So you have to be careful with where you're standing. Sometimes just guess which one he will be in and wish the best of luck. Plus the fact that the machines can smash you to death. Oh god, that sounds wrong. Plus the fact that the machines can crush you to death does make this pretty difficult in my opinion. There's also the fact that you can't collect any wings in this one, and the fact that the laser beams will come out when Eggman is hiding to try and kill you. And the fact that this cat is cute! That actually has nothing to do with the boss fight, I just find this cat adorable. All those things, well except for the cute cat, just make this boss fight really challenging. And in a good way, cause this is the final boss fight after all. And I do find it pretty satisfying when Eggman has finally been defeated. He tries to run away in his Eggmobile, but Sonic stops him. After beating him, you get back to Green Hill Zone, sees that all the animals are now saved, and if you got all the chaos symbols like I told you guys about before, you get flowers! They do absolutely nothing except let there be more nature, but hey, this means that you have now gotten the good ending. The credits roll and we get to see through the previous zones we had just played to reminisce of the journey we just went through. Which I find pretty nice. And that was my opinion on Sonic the Hedgehog. Shit, I forgot to talk about the music! Something I feel most Sonic games have, even the bad ones, is a really great soundtrack. And this game is definitely no exception. Green Hill is just so iconic. Marble Zone is actually quite great. Spring Art is really energetic. For as much as I hate Labyrinth Zone, the music there is atmospheric to say the least. Starlight Zone is really relaxing, and sometimes whenever I'm on a walk at night, I like to listen to it on my headphones. Yeah, I know I'm weird, but it's just that good. Scrap Brain Zone has this vibe of, oh my, this is it. This is the final zone. But also encouraging at this bit. I don't know why, but I always find that part of the music encouraging, like, you can do it, Diana! And the actual final zone feels almost cinematic in a weird way, despite being on the Mega Drive. There's also some music for whenever you're fighting Eggman, and it is kick-ass! And lastly, there's the music for the special stages, which are just... well, it's giving me a headache, but hey, at least the rest are good. Overall, this game in my opinion is quite good despite a few issues I have with a few of the zones. There is definitely some improvement to be made, and it's kind of the reason I like the later games more. But I do see myself coming back to it from time to time, and I do respect it for starting a franchise I really love. And that was my opinion on Sonic the Hedgehog. Let me know what you guys thought of the video and your very wrong opinion about Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!